Hello, and thanks for joining us here on THV 11 Plus. I am Rolly Hoyt. The new year is quickly approaching. For many, it's a time to remember and reflect before starting anew. Here at THV 11, we like to look back on the biggest stories of the year. The first is a day that forever changed the city of Fordyce. On June 21st, a gunman opened fire at a grocery store parking lot, killing 4 people and hurting several others. It's a story we're still following as the people there remain Fordyce strong.
The police officer had us in their arms and they was covering our face. They was like, don't look down, because it was like just bodies laying there and just blood everywhere. You never think, you just went in the grocery store to buy supper later and they just start shooting out of nowhere.
And when you get close enough to the grocery store, you can see just a handful of bullet holes in the grocery store window. It's just hard to see. I mean, even seeing workers still with their Mad Butcher aprons on, coming straight out of work, still processing what happened. Because this is such a small, close-knit town, a lot of them said they knew a friend in there or they drove as soon as they heard because their relative was in there. So definitely hard for this community, something that everyone's going to try and figure out how to move on from. And a big part of that right now is asking those questions about what comes next and how did this all happen.
Probably knew most of the people.
Small town.
Small town,
yeah. Have you seen anything like this before?
Never. This doesn't happen here.
This is the only grocery store we got, but this is the first time something like this ever happened. Little small town of Fordyce. I couldn't believe it. It's unbelievable.
It's like you see on TV, pow, 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 shotguns and small armed fire. I'm a former police officer, so I was armed, and I let these people know that that they would be safe inside the building with us. And we had a lot of kids that was really traumatized.
A lot of the police cars have left. The road is open behind me, and now they're towing out cars with bullet holes in them. So definitely still figuring out what happened. We can see police still in the store, still assessing the scene. But outside the store, there's a new sign up tonight. We don't know when it was put up or by who, but I know it's an important message for a lot of people in Fordyce tonight. A lot of thoughts with this town as they go through this tragedy. Definitely a hard scene to be at, to speak to these people, and now as Arkansans really follow this as well.
I can't even begin to imagine how you feel. I'm not even going to try to. But I can tell you this, Fordyce, you've not been forgotten.
Although Fordyce is a small city in numbers, its love for their own outweighs it all.
The suspect, Travis Posey, is still being held in the Camden jail. His trial set for now for early February. Next up is a case that got the attention of lawmakers at the U.S. Capitol. In March, Little Rock Airport Director Brian Malinowski died in a shootout when federal agents raided his home. The months-long investigation eventually became the focus of a congressional hearing.
Mr. Dettelbach, we're going to have questions about this and a host of other things the ATF has done under your watch.
House Judiciary Chairman Jim Jordan with a not-so-cordial welcome to Stephen Dettelbach, the head of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives.
The most common type of firearms trafficking now is dealing firearms for profit without a license.
And efforts to stop that trafficking is why ATF agents got a warrant to search the West Little Rock home of Brian Malinowski. By mid-March of this year, the executive director of Clinton National Airport had raised suspicions of investigators. Malinowski bought 150 guns online and in person over 2.5 years. His reselling at gun shows, where no background check is required, put him in the agency's sights. The family's attorney, Bud Cummings, says Malinowski had a hobby, so he never broke any laws selling the way he did, even when a handful of weapons turned up at crime scenes later. And now, supporters hope Dettelbach could clear up when a hobbyist becomes a criminal.
For specific conduct-based...
I think just for a regular person, more information than ever is probably less helpful than if you sell 3 guns, you're not a dealer, and if you sell 4 guns, then you are a dealer, right?
Chairman Jordan wants answers on tactics and procedures that led the ATF to raid the home early in the morning to take Malinowski by surprise, which they say led to the shooting that left him dead and an agent wounded.
Disabled the doorbell camera, cut electricity to the house, and you didn't wear body cameras. What were you guys trying to hide?
Mr. Chairman, We're not trying to hide things. In fact, after
seems
Mr.
like it.
More drama when Malinowski's widow, Mare, stood up at the request of Texas Representative Troy Nehls.
Director, would you like to stand up and look at her and apologize?
I've already said, of course, whenever these things happen, it's a tragedy.
Prosecutor Will Jones says the shooting by federal agents in March was justified. His statement gives us our first look at a second-by-second breakdown of what happened on March 19th, all according to audio captured on a Little Rock police dash cam. Now, according to the case review, on March 19th at 6:02 a.m., a Little Rock police officer turned on his emergency lights and sirens to let the neighborhood know of police presence. That's when ATF agents began knocking on Malinowski's door, announcing they were there. The report says about 30 seconds later, agents used a ram to knock down the door. 15 seconds after that, police say Malinowski shot the first of 4 gunshots at the first ATF agent that entered the home. Another ATF agent entered and returned fire, hitting Malinowski. The report says the agents had shields and vests with ATF police written across them. Again, after its investigation, the prosecutor's office says the ATF's use of force was justified in this situation. I have spoken to the Malinowski family attorney, who said in a statement in part, quote, "A U.S. citizen was given 28 seconds before his home was forcefully invaded by armed government intruders, and he was killed in front of his wife."
After the investigation, the Little Rock Police Department released dash cam video from a patrol vehicle parked outside of Malinowski's home during the raid. You can find that full video on the THV11 YouTube page. Another big story that gained national attention started at the Pulaski County Jail. Inmates at that facility became the focus of a Netflix documentary series that aired earlier this year. Unlocked, a jail experiment, follows 46 unguarded inmates in the state's biggest regional detention facility to see if they could govern themselves. It turns out the real drama started after filming wrapped up.
The question was, do I have the authority to allow a camera crew to come into the facility? And the answer was yes.
I believe in criminal justice reform, but that could have been done. He could have done everything that he did without turning our jail into a reality TV show.
I do think that everyone experienced it a little differently, so it would be beneficial for some, but maybe not everybody, from what I'm seeing.
I volunteered to be here. Prior to coming, I asked, were there any questions, specific questions this body had for me? You did not submit any questions.
We can do things differently, that we can create a community that's a safer community, not only for the deputies, but for the detainees.
It's been a month since the hit Netflix series Unlocked, a Jail Experiment premiered. Since then, there has been backlash from county and state officials.
I was disappointed in that. With hope that we'd focus on the positive, on what we're doing and how it truly transforms our facility and can do that.
So Sheriff Eric Higgins held a press conference to address any questions. The sheriff said he was approached by Lucky 8 to do the series after they discovered the success of the sheriff's reentry program. Sheriff Higgins says they have a 4% recidivism rate in this program as compared to the state average of around 50%. He also said that the company Lucky 8 was under no obligation to give them money, but when the agreement was signed, they were to pay $1,000 for each inmate that was in the show.
There was no obligation for them to do that. That's something that they wanted to put in the agreement that they wanted to do.
The county judge sent back the $60,000 check to Lucky 8. In the meantime, the sheriff has been tasked with answering questions from the Pulaski County officials. The latest round of questions was submitted to them Monday night. We are told it's around 1,000 pages of information that need to go through a review process before it can be released to the public. But Sheriff Higgins told media what some of those concerns were, that some inmates were allowed to be on camera when they had serious charges or were possibly involved in sexual assaults during filming.
The incident did not occur in H Unit, it actually occurred several months prior.
He also said despite what the Netflix series didn't show, all security checks and protocols were followed. And the jail continues to have open doors in H unit. The only thing that has changed is a deputy in the pod.
If the tablets aren't working right, if the phones aren't working, their code is not working to make the phone calls or what have you, or they have questions about their case, they can ask the deputy for information.
Now the sheriff plans to expand the experiment to other cells. He said they are in the process doing this in a pod twice as big as the H unit.
Well, as you can see, Arkansas found itself in the national spotlight on more than one occasion, and also found itself in the path of totality during an historic event. We have a look back at Arkansas's 3 minutes of darkness coming up. For many, the best moment of 2024 came and went in just a few minutes. The moon eclipsed the sun in April and left places around the world in total darkness, with much of our state in the path of totality. Officials at all levels looked ahead for months, leaving us to look up and back at that unforgettable day.
This is that moment that many folks have planned for, prepared for, hoped for. As we watch the cloud cover forecast closely, now it appears that we are being treated to a wonderful show. There is your diamond ring effect. And you can see just how magical it is. You can hear how the crowd is responding. The sun is gone. We have reached totality in Russellville. You can safely take off your eclipse glasses here in Russellville. Oh my word.
Wow.
I've taken the glass. Oh my goodness.
I'm getting emotional.
I truly am speechless. You can see stars, you can see planets, you can see solar rays extending far, far beyond just the corona of the sun.
The totality length was about anywhere between 2 minutes and 17 seconds in Arkadelphia, but where that red line is, that was the longest period of totality, with the sun disappearing behind the shadow of the moon for about 4 minutes or even more than that. And that's where everybody flocked to. We had hundreds of thousands of people come to the natural state to check out this amazing event, and it was truly an experience I will never forget. Fortunately, the clouds stayed away. We had some storms arrive later in the day, but during the totality, around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it was just something that was breathtaking, and people even cried as that totality was happening. Something that will stay with me for the rest of my life. And I hope I will make the next eclipse that will be happening. But again, it's not until about 20 or 30 years away.
Little did we know that the eclipse would be just one of the major stories we followed that week. Just 2 days after the massive statewide event, the University of Arkansas became the center of the sports world when it named John Calipari as its new head basketball coach.
I really felt good about him. I liked the vibe. I liked what I was hearing. And it kind of played from there.
A week ago, Eric Musselman left Arkansas for Southern Cal. Now Coach Cal is choosing Arkansas. How did we get here with a Hall of Fame coach with 40 NBA players to his credit?
Those explanations came tonight in a primetime press conference. And THV 11 Sports' Tyler Cass had a front row seat. Tyler, take it away.
When you hear the word press conference, you probably think a subdued affair. This was as far from that as you can possibly get. I'm outside Bud Walton Arena right now. It's quiet, still a little wet and rainy. Earlier on, it was a torrential downpour, but that didn't stop Hog fans. I'll be honest, I was impressed. Bud Walton Arena, the entire lower bowl was about halfway full. It was thousands of screaming Hog fans. Coach Calipari certainly impressed in his introduction, but I think Hog fans impressed Coach as well.
I have never gotten that kind of greeting in this building.
And it was more than a greeting. It was a hog extravaganza.
That press conference, I'd never seen anything like it. Like, that right there was, for me, like, we got off the plane. I was looking for Joe Biden. I'm like, what is going on here?
According to Calipari, he first met with Arkansas AD Hunter Yurachek at the behest of his friend and Arkansas booster, John Tyson.
I need you to talk to my AD. Well, I'm in Phoenix. He's in Phoenix. What? Part of it was talking about other people, and he said, now that you know this, and I know you think this is a great program, why not you? Why not me? Yeah, why not you? Huh. And I'll be honest, when I thought about coming here and building this program and making it something special, it got me excited.
Now, the task ahead is daunting.
I just met with the team. There were 3 guys in there, and they were in the portal.
But as tough as the job is, the expectations are just as high.
Having a dream and a burning desire to compete for championships. Why am I here? That's why I'm here.
It's crazy to think we also played a part in one of the biggest entertainment stories of 2024. The beef between hip-hop icons Drake and Kendrick Lamar filled our feeds over the summer as both rappers released track after track of brutal bars. The feud crescendoed in September when Kendrick dropped a song and announced his new gig as Super Bowl 59 halftime performer. So what does Arkansas have to do with Kendrick Lamar? Well, here are 2 phrases to explain. Walk a mile in another man's shoes, and a picture is worth 1,000 words.
Information that'll change his life because he yearns for that.
It was big news in the hip-hop world when Kendrick Lamar surprise released a new song on the evening of September 11th. It was his first song since his high-profile feud with Drake, a 5-minute untitled track released simply with a picture of these shoes, a pair of black Air Force Ones.
Drum roll, please.
Here we go, the big moment.
Boom.
These are them.
That's them.
Internet sleuths quickly figured out the shoes came from an eBay listing based in North Little Rock. The account in question called Good to Be You, and it belongs to Billy Lingo and Darla Wilson, who have been together for 20 years and running the account since 2021.
What happened was I sold the shoes, and I said, oh, great. I sold a pair of shoes. So I started, I've got them, boxed them up, printed the label, and all of a sudden my phone was blowing up.
It was other eBay users letting them know that their shoes, which were quickly snatched up for $70, were now a piece of hip-hop history. The couple says they have no connection to Lamar. This was completely unexpected.
Well, I'm not gonna lie to you. I didn't know a whole lot about him. And I knew he was. My son had told me about him, and my daughter had told me about him, but I really know about him now.
Once they figured out what was going on, the couple canceled the initial order. And since they own the image, they say they plan to sell t-shirts with it.
A very mustard story from Carter Thweet, cited in several national publications, including Complex. And if you want to learn more about that beef between Drake and Kendrick, we've got a full breakdown on THV11.com. Now, not every big story of 2024 started in 2024. In fact, this next one had a spot on the list last year. The drama surrounding a lectern bought by Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders' office continued this year and eventually wrapped up over the summer. Here's a look back at what happened. Long-awaited audit of that purchase of a lectern by Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders and her office, it dropped this afternoon.
The 68-page report lays out the findings of the months-long investigation by the Arkansas Legislative Audit. It details the $19,000 purchase made by the governor's office in June of 2023. Critics of Sarah Huckabee Sanders have pointed to the cost and the secretive way her office admitted to the purchase and accused her of fraud.
But those auditors working on behalf of a Republican legislative committee found serious problems with several parts of this long story along the way. The auditors found the costs of the lectern, case, and shipping were all reasonable, but could not determine if a $2,500 consulting fee to the vendor, Beckett Events, was reasonable. That's because the vendors never spoke with them. From there, the audit notes several, quote, areas of potential noncompliance with state law, specifically state procurement laws and freedom of information laws. The governor's office made the purchase with incorrect credit cards, drew from improper accounts, and then handled invoices and records poorly. And when requests for those records came in, they didn't release all the documents at first and marked at least one of them later by hand. In the auditor's opinion, that violates the state's FOIA law. For those reasons, the report has been sent to the Attorney General and the local prosecutor in Little Rock. But Governor Sanders vigorously denied the allegations in a section called Managerial Response. She and Attorney General Tim Griffin say that the procurement laws don't apply to her because she's a constitutional officer. Prosecutor Will Jones posted on social media that he would review the file and would not comment further. Earlier this evening, the governor's office defiantly posted a social media video showing the lectern and warning critics to, quote, come and take it. You can read that full audit report right now on THV11.com. And our list of top stories wouldn't be complete without some weather events and road stories. We've got those and more when we return. People across Arkansas saw their fair share of severe weather. We experienced damaging floods in the northern part of the state and a tornado outbreak caused by Hurricane Beryl. But there are two weather events that hit our state hard. First, a pair of deadly EF3 tornadoes tore through northwest Arkansas in the middle of Memorial Day weekend. The storms killed 10 people and caused widespread damage, a big chunk of the destruction coming in Rogers in Benton County. The county judge there reported close to 2,600 homes damaged by those storms. And closer to home, a late-night storm turned tornadic and swept over Hot Springs and Lake Hamilton. The EF2 tornado touched down in the early hours of May 8th, knocking out power and throwing trees onto houses and vehicles. Damage touched me and my family personally with our home on one of the hardest hit streets. It would take days to restore power. Cleanup and recovery efforts continue even now. But the storm claimed no lives and resulted in only a few minor injuries, and it didn't take long for the community to step in and help. Aside from the chainsaws and manual labor, a group of realtors offered some financial assistance to get people back on their feet. We're accustomed to the changed landscape in our neighborhood by now, but in a reminder that it happens almost daily, delivery drivers have been dropping off holiday packages still ask us what happened here. Much like those recovery efforts, there are stories from this year that we'll continue following into 2025. The one that could be the biggest is playing out right now in the small town of Lano. You might remember police arrested a father back in October after he allegedly shot and killed a man he found in a car with his teenage daughter. Earlier this month, police arrested and charged Aaron Spencer on a second-degree murder charge. Investigators say Spencer reported his daughter missing, but then, according to court documents, she turned up on October 8th in a car with 67-year-old Michael Fossler. A fight broke out between the two men and ended with Spencer allegedly shooting and killing Fossler. Court documents show Fossler already facing charges from early September of sexual assault and sexual indecency with a child. Lawyers on both sides say they understand the public interest in the case.
We feel very confident that this community is going to come to Aaron's side because every one of them would have done the same thing for their child.
What's being put out there is not the whole story. And ethically, I can't go much further than that.
A few weeks ago, Spencer appeared before a judge where he pleaded not guilty. His jury trial now set tentatively for March 19th there in Lano County. Let's switch gears and share some stories of progress on two major road projects that have been driving drivers crazy for years. 2024 saw the Arkansas Department of Transportation wrapping up the 30 Crossing Project. Earlier this month, state and local leaders met along I-30 in Little Rock to celebrate the update that took close to 4 years and $540 million to complete.
Every day that it gets done earlier is a day that our traveling public does not have to go through a construction work zone. So it's safer all the way around, and it's just so much more convenient, and it just saves everybody a lot of headaches.
Here at the end of the year, RDOT calls the project, quote, substantially complete. There might be a few things to finish up over the next couple of months, and another phase awaits a few miles north of the river where I-30 meets I-40 in North Little Rock. The other big project drivers are waiting on to wrap up is close to being complete. Exciting news for anyone who lives or drives through Saline County on I-30, because this is a project that was supposed to finish up 2 years ago. Dave Parker with RDOT says he understands the complaints, even admits many of them are warranted, but the finish line is close. Parker says all updates should be completed by early to mid-January. And finally, a story and industry we've been following for years gaining steam here in Arkansas. We've told you about the lithium boom that our state appears poised to be a part of. It's just a matter of when. In just the last few months, we've seen several updates that tell us that could be sooner than later. In October, a study put together by the United States Geological Survey and the Arkansas Department of Energy revealed the possibility of somewhere between 5 and 19 million tons of lithium located in an area called the Smackover Formation. That cluster includes a large portion of southern Arkansas. Researchers say that much lithium is enough to replace all U.S. imports of the mineral, I should say, that's used in batteries, critical for all our everyday needs, and why officials are very much focused on our state.
Our researchers were out actually collecting samples of this really salty water in the brines across the region, and then they used modeling to that included what they know about the geology of the area to estimate how much lithium actually might be across the entire state.
A few weeks after the release of that study, Fayetteville-based venture firm Startup Junkie won the chance to man the U.S. Small Business Administration's Regional Innovation Cluster. But before businesses can make money on lithium, they need to know how much it's worth. That's an open question as we end the year after the state panel that regulates mineral rights rejected a royalty fee proposal from the expected industry players. Those players will have to bring them a more transparent plan sometime next year. You can learn more about our coming lithium boom and our extensive coverage right now on THV11.com. So there you go, THV11's top 11 stories of 2024. Our incredible digital team put together an article that includes this list and the details of each one. You can find that right now on our website. And thank you for joining us this year. We hope you'll stick with us as we go through 2025.